really there is something in here that is not helping out. So I'm going to make sure I solve it. So I'm going to go ahead with the stream. It does require some kind of speciality view that I'm unable to solve right now. So here we go. So this is regarding the NASA standard 31,000, and I've prepared a set of, I'm going to say, materials for us to cover today. Canada. So here is the context, and I think you will definitely enjoy it. Okay, let's go. There are some really cool things in here. Okay. Okay. So this is how this is structured. We have a big, I'm going to say, big thing, the overall NASA technical standard, standard 3001, volume 1, revision C. That's a NASA space flight human system standard, volume Crew ELF. This is volume 1, so it's important that later on you'll see the structure of this, but I'll give you just an idea, like using our friend ChatGPT, that this NASA standard, also known as the NASA technical standard, you can read the thing in here, is a technical standard created by NASA to guide the development and design of human systems and in space missions. The standard specifies the requirements for the design, testing, and evaluation of human system interfaces. That's pretty cool, correct? That's a big thing, which include hardware, software, and operational procedures. It addresses a broad range of topics related to human factors, including anthropometry, that's the size of how people are, okay? Biomechanics, perception, cognition, and human performance. Okay, this gives you an idea, but it doesn't really tell you what more we need to work on, okay? So ChatGPT was okay, but it was not okay enough. So let's dive into this. So the standard has essentially the scope. This is where I think it's really important to read the standard. The technical standard establishes agency-wide technical requirements that minimize health and performance risks for flight crew in human spaceflight programs. Okay, so now think about more. This NASA technical standard applies to space vehicles, habitats, facilities, payloads, and related equipment with which the crew interfaces during planet spaceflight and lunar planetary, example Mars and habitation. So it's way more than just the spacecraft. Okay, it's everything that is related to yourself and to the things that you can do in space. So that's pretty cool. I think that's pretty cool, to be fair. Oh, Bruce, go here. Just add a comment on LinkedIn to your live, and let me confirm the liveness of that. So we are definitely live. In here. Oh, now you can see me, but we're gonna stop sharing and sharing mostly the content that we need to engage with. Cool. So let's go ahead, share. There you go. Yeah. So that's what we are looking at, and I'm just confirming that back on LinkedIn. And this has been like a, I'm gonna call it the good fight in here. Okay, I know what happened. I know what happened. Bang. Got it. Okay. So let's go ahead. I'm very positive that this technical challenge will go ahead, and we should be able to see the live event happening on LinkedIn. Yeah. Interesting enough. So if we go back to the again to the NASA standard, there is a bit of technical technical issues with the broadcast today. For some weird reason. Okay, I've got people joining on on the studio. Cool. Welcome, Andy. I hope you can hear and listen to things. So that's fun. Um, I'm gonna continue where we were. Definitely being a challenge today. Okay, I'll share screen because it definitely works versus anything else out there. So I was on the NASA technical standard, the organization, and I was essentially comparing what ChatGPT brings and explains versus what was the digging inside it. So again, so that's the standard we have. It has two parts, volume one and volume two. Today we're going to address volume one. And I think the most important part in here, as you can see, is the scope. The scope is everything. It's like the NASA technical standard applies to vehicles, habitats, facilities, and payloads. Okay, there is, I can admit a cheeky comment over there. What about the interface with robotic systems? So there is something missing over that. Now, that's one part of the scope. I really like the fact that in the standard itself, it says what's the life cycle of life cycle is in this NASA technical standard. Okay, issued by the Office of the Chief Health Medical Officer, established that is pre-mission, in-mission, and post-mission phases of human spaceflight. That means that in particular case for humans, we need to follow up what's happening with people. Okay, so that's really an important part later on. So that's, I'm going to say, the scope part. And in terms of resources, you've got essentially, I'm going to say, three key resources. The NPR 8705, that's the human rating requirements. And that's like a big chunk of work. I'll just open it up in here so that you'll see. But it's not that, I'm going to say, not that bad. It's pretty straightforward. It's very procedural as well. And that's what people want. It's that human rating certification package that you've seen Dragon 9 obtain. So that's what the companies that human spaceflight want to achieve. Then we have the crewed deep space flight human rating performance requirements and standards. Again, they should be taken into consideration because the second one, this one in here, is like it's a I'm not going to call it a die down, but it's a review of the second one, okay, for you to be able to utilize. Then, okay, let's continue in that direction. And there is something really good to know. That is the overall Office of the Chief Engineer variations, or in this case, what are the documents and how can they influence us? So that's really important as we build these new spacecraft or space-related equipment. So going back so that's, I'm going to say, your frame one, okay? So we know the scope. It's everything. It's not only the people, the vehicles, the habitats, but the whole interfaces during the whole space. And there was really fun, the part in here that, like, during space flight and lunar and planetary, example, Mars habitation. Why did they place this in here? I think it's more of a, I want to show something like this. Okay, that was pretty cool. Then the whole life cycle piece we've covered. Let's go ahead and understand a bit more of how is this organized? How is the standard organized? So it has these technical requirements to support volume one, the one from today, to to support the astronaut Alpha and the crew Alpha. And that has the second part, that is system design that will maintain astronaut safety and promote performance. So it's kind of weird, but the first one is like, who are the people that I have got in there and what do I need to do with them? And this is how you utilize the hardware around you. And you'll see a very different approach very soon as I dive into the details of what SpaceX has made. But let's continue. Okay, so the volume one considers the human physiological parameters as a system, such as one views the engineering and design of a mechanical device. I had some problem with that, like, okay, what about software, correct? Do we really work like a mechanical device? So it's just kind of a weird thing, but nevertheless, I'll make some comments in the standard to see what's going to happen. Doing so allows the human system to be viewed as an integral part of the overall vehicle design process. That part is cool. That's absolutely a great practice, as well as the mission reference design, treating the human system as one system along with many other systems that work in concert to allow the nominal operation. It doesn't tell you how we're going to do this. It tells you what's the intent. That's cool. That's really interesting, okay? And I'll deeper dive into the structure on how to do this, and you'll like it, okay? Just checking in if we finally got live on LinkedIn. We didn't. Some weird thing happened over here, but that's just how things work sometimes. That's just how things work. Okay, getting back to our work, and in this case into the STDM. So that's volume 1, okay? And I would say the next step over here is, as we know what the volume is. So I've kind of divided these into volume 1, and then from here volume 2. Volume 2 is very interesting, okay? It focuses the terms of the human system integration, where the context about the human, how it interacts with the other systems, including the habitat and the environment. The focus is on the performance during the mission. This is really, really interesting. Okay, the next one. I did find a bit of a hold up in here because NASA has got these 3 key things, the Human Interaction Design Handbook, the Human Integration Design Processes, and the NASA Human Systems Integration Handbook. For some reason, the only time that Humans in the Loop design appears, it's over here. So get ready for that, okay? Could it have something to do with Human in the Loop? Of course it has. So that's why we've been looking at this more of an holistic point of view. Now, let's pick up the standard, okay, which is the volume 1. And before I dive into the structure, so the structure is pretty straightforward. You got health and medical technical requirements for human performance, and training, medical operations, and crew health records. Man, the fact that it's even written in a different way just tells that someone at NASA, that's why they put this out there. It's like, okay, write technical requirements everywhere, because they are technical requirements. They are really important. I'm going to, before we dive into all the side of the requirements, let me show you what I think it's really cool. So the first thing I was like, okay, so we're talking about design. Okay, so what's one of the best sources of design? Okay, what's the design process? But that's more for the launch vehicle, got it? So that's, again, the source is from the launch vehicle design process, characterization, and technical integration from Blair. And it's very design function organized. It has the subsystems, and from the subsystems you integrate. It's very much how, although we like to see humans like that, like cardiorespiratory system, circulatory system, mental system, all of those, it doesn't work exactly like that. We need to develop them all at the same time. And it's kind of here, it appears to be more on that design functions integrations. Of course, that's how we do it. We have done the integration function to do that, but it's not exactly like that for a human. So, who has done that well? Of course, SpaceX. The Crew Dragon spacecraft and is ECLSS, an environmental control and life supporting system. You see, it's located on the floor of this volume, but you'll see the first and one of the only papers, man, that speaks about how do you develop this well. Okay, and it's very, very curious because from the beginning, and if you dive just a little bit more, the development of the Crew Dragon, they do specify the tight coupling of many subsystems combined with emphasis on simplicity and fault tolerance created unique challenging opportunities for the design team. That was pretty cool. I've got someone else that joined, so welcome. Ben, thanks for probably my friend Ben. I don't know if it's my friend Ben, but he might. But let me go back in here. So we were looking at how SpaceX particularly designed the nose cone pressure section. Think about this again, more of the architectural view. This is the physical parts. But what really triggered me was going inside this source, okay, the source of the launch vehicle design categorization. I do emphasize that the resource is not mine. These are 3 folks that really know what they are doing, and that's why they developed it in record time. There are a couple of things to consider in here. Of course, they did this. Okay, Dragon 1 flew with a simple ECLS for animals. That's interesting, correct? That's interesting. No one talks about that. No one talks about in here in the development, use animals first or prepare for animals and do it for humans. I don't know if SpaceX did this for. No, I'm sure it didn't do it with animals because it would be known. But now, okay, this paper describes the design and operation of the ECLS, the development process and the lessons learned. This is really important. It's like a gem out there in how SpaceX works. I'm not going to walk into the requirements, but I will show you what at the end, or some of the nuggets in here, okay? Nuggets in here. Of course, one of the things was the spacesuit interfaces. And of course, Crew Dragon uses an open loop air-cooled SpaceX developed intravehicle pressure suits. And I think you know that they are evolving these suits to become EVAs, not IV, intravehicular suits, but external vehicle suits. That's a very interesting thing, correct? To evolve from a design that you know into something that will work on. That the umbilical connected to each suit that distributes recirculators the R cabin. Most likely we'll have something near in the future. We'll see. But I want to also bring you to the end, not exactly to the end, but they left in here something for us to keep on thinking. Okay, testing and validation, it has an extensive part in here. I noticed in particular the fact of the component qualification. And I was like, okay, yes, that makes all sense because it includes proof leak, performance, shock, vibration, and it's all vertically integrated. That's one of the key things in here. That's the ECLS module. It looks really cool, correct? It's still in development for testing, of course, but we are 2023 now, and we know it works. Now, this is where I haven't seen anything else in the NASA standard, and that's my comment. Is like human in the loop testing. It didn't specify how do we do human in the loop. Probably in part 2, and I will get back to this again. But it doesn't describe. It doesn't even talk about it. So that's kind of weird. Okay. Then conclusion. I'll let you this to read later on. But look in here, the nugget. This paper draws from the content of the Dragon 2 system manual written by Rachel Ellman. And there is no reference in the internet to any of this. It's like these guys have worked with NASA extensively and brought all of these to their knowledge and to our knowledge. So that's a good thing. Let me see who joined. Hey, Anusa. Thanks for joining. Hello. I hope you can see what I have. Let me show you over here.
Yes, hello. Good morning.
Hello, thanks for joining. I was presenting LinkedIn technicalities were with where are you dialing from?
Phoenix, Arizona, sir. Phoenix.
Oh, okay. Hello, welcome. Do you do space for a life?
I kind of come at it as from a different angle. My grad school, Thunderbird School of Global Management, has recently.
Oh, I know it well.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So I come more from the virtual reality, augmented reality, AI, blockchain world. So we're looking at a festival next year in Phoenix, a space festival. I produced, or I was on the production team for the Burning Man organization for a number of years.
That's pretty cool.
So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's we just met with Germany last night, and Zahir Ali gave me a briefing on the German space program and European space organizations. So I
know well Zahir. I know well Zahir, and I've studied with him, and we work together in something. So man, welcome to this.
Thank you.
Let me go through the standard, because you have a lot of stuff in there that you can use, man. It's like it's a nugget if you want to think about virtualizing some of these tests, and even in the process, like it's full of opportunities.
Cool. Yeah.
And I see Andy Dag in here. Andy, hello. I'm gonna pull you up. I don't know where you are and what you do, but just saying hello. And you don't want to speak, it's fine as well. But if you do want, just say hello, and so that I can continue with these. Okay, probably next time. Just ping me if you want to. I am going to. How do I? Okay, yeah, I know that. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to the stream, so that we got this end overview. So the technical document is due for commenting today, like we talked about, like I was talking about. But what's important in here is NASA kind of put the standard out there and says, okay, you want to design human space vehicles, and I would say didn't give an exact direction already. So I'm going to provide that, okay? And I made some comments over here. Let me go back to, so what's the structure of all of these? The structure is the following. You've got health and medical needs, okay? And they cover a lot of things, from the medical management, selection of people, both from the medical side, but you also have the human performance side of it. And that's huge in terms of what are the requirements for microgravity. And I'll try to make a deep dive on the thing that is more concerning to me, that is ionizing radiation, okay? Then there is a ton of tests and needs in the human performance side, with specific requirements in there. And there is the whole astronaut training. So, and if like many of these things could be virtualized, and you'll see that there are specific examples of what we need to do. And then one of the most fun medical operations as well, from the behavior side. And I would say one that is really surprising is the effect of the crew health and crew communication records. I've got one of these fabulous examples that really blew my mind. So that's the structure of the standard, okay? You've got health and medical, human performance, training, medical operations, and crew health. That's how volume 1 is structured. See what more joined. Yeah, Brad. Hello, Brad. Okay, Brad, let me know if you want to cast some words and tell your interest in space, but I'm going to move ahead with some of the cool examples I've seen in here. So structure of the standard, okay? Although ChatGPT told something different, the NASA 3001, it's more than that, guys. It's besides just the crew, and this is where we need to think, because the standard, although it says that in here in the section that where does it apply, It applies to vehicles, habitats, facilities, payloads, and all equipment. So it applies to everything. But then its definition is more focused on the person. And I, of course, we do understand why, because without that's impossible. So I'm going to move on to give you a very good example of what will people be in terms of the deep dive proposed for today, specifically for radiation, okay, as low as reasonably achieved principle, and what's going to happen to our astronauts as they get inducted. So the deep dive was, I collected some of the evidence from Dr. PhD Giovanni Parmigiani, or he says that, okay, how are we going to handle our lives in here? Because it's most likely that we're going to get cancer on Mars. The most important part in here is to, I would say, if you look into the way, let me open up the video connection. If you look into the way that space missions are being conducted, and specifically for the radiation purpose, I'll pause in here, is every of our living tissues, as we do our initial missions, goes through, okay, what's the overall, what kind of particles or what kind of dose do I receive over time, coming from the specific day when I fly, what are the locations where it happens, and kind of which body parts I have more sensitivity, and that becomes the effective dose. So step by step, not only the radiation weighting factor, okay, each specific organ receives that, but also as the mission evolves, it becomes from absorbed dose to an effective dose. It's important to understand that as NASA pointed out, I'll get this there. And again, these values are also in the standard. I'll make sure you have good ability to see it. Okay. So if you are at the space station, we are around at the 100, okay? 100 is the maximum or the average to do something like this. The whole point is that in your whole lifetime, okay, in the whole lifetime, you don't get to more than, I believe, 600 spheres. That poses a lot of questions as we plan longer-term missions, for example, to Mars, because they will take like 6 months or even more. So I'll pause in here. You guys, if you have any questions, I will definitely try to answer them. Okay, if that's not the case, hi. So any questions so far on the organization of the standard that you'd like to pose?
I have a question. Are you presenting something visually now? Because I've got a black screen basically in the video of your face.
Oh, do you have a black screen? Okay, let me confirm in here. Got a black screen, so.
I wanted to mention also that I've got a Australian researcher here from Wollongong University, who was also on the calls with Zahir over the last.
Okay, that's pretty cool. So you should be seeing everything, okay? And
maybe it's on my side. I just kind of have a screen with some kind of laser-looking things moving, and that's all I get. Unless there's some setting I don't see.
Let me go for that. So sharing screen. Okay.
It's okay. Go ahead, please.
Well, okay, that's not fun. That's not fun.
I like it.
That's not fun. That's one way to say it. That's not fun.
We'll just imagine it.
Okay, gotcha. That was not fun.
It's on his end.
Okay.
Yeah, there's always a way. There's always a way. You should be able to see it. Okay.
Yeah.
You should be able to see it. Okay. So the deep dive has to do with this words. Okay. The essentially the thinking process is, if we are bringing astronauts to long-term missions, the most likely possibility that they could contract cancer, it needs to be better established. That's what I'm going to say. There are specific technical ways. That's called the ALARA principle, as there is as low as reasonable achievable principle to do space missions, but with a voyage to Mars that could take probably more than 6 months, this thing is going to be tough. Okay, at least tough. That's the minimal thing. I also would like to share with you that as you look into the tables of the maximum VO2, so the maximum ability to I'm going to say to perform exercise under certain conditions, that's volume of oxygen max. That what we are asking our astronauts is really for them to be in the top tier. They are asking like 35 mils, and I went to search more on what is applicable at the level. What's kind of, if you are a high performance player, what's your levels of VO2 max? And guys, our astronauts need to be up there with everyone that has extreme, really high VO2s. Okay, and you'll have a table in here to support that information. Just be aware as you design experiences that either in your case it's in VR that have to do with extravehicular activity. Think that the real experience has to do with being something like 6 hours outside in an extreme environment, running very hard for a while, and then being able to calm down yourself. So that's planning for a big extreme event. So that's something to think about in terms when you plan or you bring people into both analog experiences or, of course, the ones in space. The astronauts have a very high VO2, both male and women. The other thing that I would like to pick up, and that's really a fun one, and I'll probably cover this again. It's in the crew health. Okay, there is this conundrum here that you need to record all the crew health results, and you need to maintain recordings and storing of that. And I'm going to show you an example, okay, of how, and this record has more than 50 years. Okay, let me open this up, and I hope you guys can hear it. Okay. Around here in the exactly in 3172, and I'll play it, and I'm sharing the sound of my, I'll make it more louder. Again, see this? So these requirements have been in place for a long time. And the reason why they've been in place is because it allows us to do this. Okay, LOI achieved. Brutal, correct? And I'm gonna stop there, okay? So what you guys just listening was the Apollo records, okay? And they exist because of the standard. You see what I mean? What you learn, what you listened was, I'm gonna say, a voice from the past, showing the Apollo records of as astronauts were getting ready for the power descent. Okay, it's like it's an unbelievable way to say, oh, this is why the standard exists. This is why we maintain accurate records, and this is why we need to communicate them. So for me, it was like, as I was researching this, like, oh man, that's why NASA puts up these standards. That's why, in order to capture and maintain heritage and maintain the knowledge on how to make. Yeah, it's pretty strong. Okay, so every one of these pieces in the beginning of the technical standard will be needed as you plan your mission. Okay, what I've done was I collected all of the standard, or all of the materials, and made a very straightforward, I'm going to say, method. We need to assess regarding your mission or your experience which of these requirements do we need, and then prepare the table for that. And then, as we need to tailor it, and I've got specific, I'm going to say, specific recommendations on how do you tailor that, and then you move into the design, implement, and review phases. In terms of the systems engineering process, and that you probably are knowledgeable of, we are going to do the tailoring over here, and then pick up everything that is coming from post-tailoring into the design, from here until here, these three phases. And then from here is implementation, testing, and review. That's how you pick up the standard and the requirements that are on the compliance matrix end to end. We say, okay, how am I going to adhere to medical management? All the risk and aspects, including the ethics, shall be in according with the current U.S. medical care standards. So if you're flying a mission on Europe, you need to think about that. If you're flying an analog mission, well, we're not flying into space, but we do need to have some care on that. So to start checking the capability, yes or no. And then any comments in terms of the implementation and documentation of that. So as we move forward with that, applying it will make sure that you are able, as a contractor, to say to NASA or to say to anyone that this is the standard I'm applying, but you need to make proof of that. And that's where I'm here to help. As I can, me and my team, myself and my wife, Anna Jo, she's the people officer and looking into more of the training capabilities, can offer you, or for your experience in this case, a space process assessment based on the existing standard and the processes that you've got in place or that you need to have in place to be successful, okay, in your space endeavor. And with that, I will open up for any questions that you have, believing that right now some of the issues in there were hidden. And the recording will be available, of course, after I edited a bit more on the social media channels. And I most likely will do this again in order to make sure that the message gets out there. Anyways, do you have any questions that you'd like to be answered, or Andy?
You know, I was only able to jump on like late in the sessions, and wasn't able to view a lot, but I did just connect with you on LinkedIn, or at least sent you an invite, and would like to listen in again to the recording. And I would say the other question, it's probably not related, but it came up in my conversation with my Australian research friend here last night. What are they going to do about water for humans on Mars and the moon? If we're 98% water as organisms, how are they going to make water if they don't find existing water?
Well, on Mars, it's pretty okay. So let's take the moon because the moon is harder than Mars. But let's take the moon.
Yeah.
On the moon, you've got several. I'm gonna say, but the moon is closer to Earth, so it tells that. Well, first a glass of water will cost you something like $50,000 later on, but that's a different thing. If you want to live from the Earth, if you want to live from using in situ resources, the moon does have enough in what's called water ice. It does need to be divided and changed. So the moon does have that.
Okay.
The process itself is known. Mars also has it, and there is a fabulous discovery from in the last month of what's called iced on the surface deposits. That was only thought to be on the pole, but right now Mars is very cold. Okay, it's really cold. But and in around the meridian, around the center, there was discovered, and I hope I can bring it to the podcast. It was discovered that you have ice, worst case, 1 meter below the surface, right over there. It's ice. It has the same characteristics. So for humans not to be taking water from here, there, and there are also possibilities in architecture of spacecrafts that they use water to shield the astronauts as we move along, and then we can potentially reuse it, but it's still open, okay? Still very open. The short answer to the moon is it's closer to Earth, and that will be possible as we have Mars spacecraft going. The short answer to Mars is we need to take some and use the one that we have there.
Yeah. Okay.
The long answer is, and I have a research paper on the presentation regarding the ECLS, the Environmental Control and Life Support System, and that is the thing that we need to sort out for the travel. Okay, that if you want to think about, because right now the International Space Station recovers, I think, around 90% of the water. Okay, so and that includes, of course, the recover. So you sweat. That thing is almost a closed environment. Okay, so that's a very cool thing. It does have the problem with ammonia on the system, on the overall. That were the two major I'm gonna say faults. But the way that the spacecraft we build, so traveling, we need to ensure that the ECLS works. Then so that poopy, pee-pee, all of those things, we sweat, we utilize every that, because we cannot take that in a long travel. So that's the I'm gonna say this. The answer to the travel is ECLS. The answer to the location could be living off land. And that's something that we can discuss in more detail, because in fact, I'm involved in a new project that has to do with how are we going to use the existing resources on Mars to initiate the life of people that will go there. So that's that was a long answer, but
No, good. It's good. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I need to step to another meeting at the top of the hour, but very nice to meet you, sir. And please accept my invitation on LinkedIn so that I can follow your work and do some more research. And great pleasure to meet you.
Yes, pleasure to meet you. I'll do this again next week as we review the technical challenges. Okay.
Okay, sounds good.
See you. Cheers. Have a great day.